Testosterone replacement therapy. I have said before that unless you are a genetic freak, and most of you are not, I consider testosterone replacement therapy a requirement for Alpha Male 2.0 for men over 40. Now, I want to address in this video the objections that I see, and I see a lot of them on the internet about, oh, I would never do that, or oh, I heard this, or I heard that. I'm going to go through every objection I've heard and address them all. I am Caleb Jones. This is Alpha Male 2.0, freedom-focused lifestyle design for men. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. We do 5 videos a week here on how to make both your business life and your woman life more free, because you need both. We are doing an online course giveaway right now. This is my online course on how you can create your own location-independent income. And normally I charge about $1,400 for that, but you might be able to get it for free. All you need to do is be a subscriber here at YouTube, like this video, and leave a comment. And I will announce the winner of the drawing every 2 weeks or so at the YouTube community feed here at this YouTube channel. Okay. Objections to testosterone replacement therapy. And if you didn't know what that means, that is replacing the testosterone that you used to have in your early 20s, late teens, early 20s, to maintain that level of testosterone for the rest of your life. Here are the objections that I hear in no particular order. Objection number 1, hey, I heard that you might get prostate cancer. Oh my God, you might get prostate cancer. That myth came out of the 70s on some tests that they did, a long 70s and I believe early 80s, where they took a bunch of really old men and they jacked their testosterone up to like 3,000, 4,000. Now, for context, your total testosterone, and I'm using American measurements here, so if you're outside the United States, please use whatever measurements you use there. But in terms of total testosterone, you don't want to go beyond 1,200. I'm about 1,140, and that's as high as I want to be. I don't want to go any higher. Most of you probably just need to go to maybe 900, you guys over 40. If you're under 40, you probably don't need this yet. You probably will later. But we're talking about testosterone replacement therapy. We're not talking about going on steroids. When someone goes on steroids, they're jacking their testosterone levels way past 1,200. 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. It's ridiculous and stupid. And what they did a long time ago, in terms of some experiments they ran, is they took a bunch of old men and they jacked their testosterone up to like 5,000, and oh, big shock, some of them got sick. Of course. When you're on TRT, one of the things you need to do, and you should probably do this anyway if you're over 40, is 2 things. 1, you get regular blood work done. I get blood work done twice a year. And one of the things I check is my PSA, which indicates, among other things, your prostate health. And you want that number to be 1.0 or so. Mine is 0.9. It's as healthy as can be. It's awesome. The other thing you need to do, unfortunately, when you're on TRT, and again, most men over 40 should do this anyway, is what they call the DRE, the digital rectal exam. It's a finger up your ass. And the doctor, try to make sure she's female, I usually do, will actually feel your prostate to make sure it's okay. And if it's the correct size and your PSA is healthy, you're good to go. And you just do that every year in case there's a problem. And usually there isn't if you're not going over 1,200, which you shouldn't. So you don't need to worry about this prostate cancer thing. By the way, side note, if you're a man and you live a long time, you're virtually guaranteed to get prostate cancer. All men eventually get prostate cancer. The only ones that don't are the ones that die before they get it. My dad just had prostate cancer 3-4 years ago. He's in his 80s. You should almost plan on getting prostate cancer at some point in your older years. That's perfectly normal. Obviously, you don't want it when you're young, but TRT is not a factor for that as long as you're doing it correctly under the guidance of a doctor. Cool? Cool. Next thing I hear, and I've even heard this from fucking doctors. God, Western doctors are so bad at this. Oh, hey, if you're on TRT, your risk of stroke goes up. You realize your increased risk of stroke, right? Yes, that is because some men, not all men, have an increased red blood cell count when they go on TRT. And so all you need to do is once every 6 months, you go donate blood. And that brings your RBC count down to healthy levels. And over the next 6 months, it will rebuild those blood cells and you just donate blood again. By the way, side point, there's a lot of data to suggest that donating blood or shedding blood every once in a while is actually something very good for you. It forces your body to recreate new blood. So I go every 5 months. Whether or not I feel like I need it, doesn't matter. Every 5 months is in my calendar. I go donate a pint of blood at my local Red Cross. And when you donate a pint of blood, you save 3 lives. That single pint of blood saves 3 lives. Literally, it's pretty nice. A nice thing to do for the world. For those of you who care, I'm Alpha 2.0, I'm Malcolm Independent. I don't care, but for those of you who care, it's a nice, wonderful thing. I do mine every 5 months, not even 6 months. I don't even wait to 6 months. And again, I get blood work done, and I check my RBC count, and on your blood work, you want to make sure that number is under 50. Again, I'm using American measurements. So if that goes over 50, you need to donate blood. This only happens to some men. It does happen to me, so fine, I'll just donate blood every 5 years. This is something, honestly, I was honestly planning on doing that before I went on TRT anyway, in terms of a longevity health thing, but that's not a big deal. And again, don't let doctors scare you about this. I have been in doctor's offices, general practitioners. A few years ago, I was in a doctor's office, very nice woman, I'm sure she's very capable. I mentioned I was still on TRT because she asked if I was on any medications and things like that. And immediately she goes, oh my, you're at increased risk of stroke, right? You might get a stroke, right? This is a doctor. And of course, if you have some balls and some information, you don't need to be fazed by these people. I said, you mean yes, because of increased RBC count? That's right. That's why I donate blood every 5 months, and my RBC count is always in the 30s or 40s. And she goes, okay. That's the other thing, by the way, is doctors don't know shit about this. It's really depressing. Okay, next thing. I don't want to do TRT because TRT isn't natural, and I want to raise my testosterone naturally. I have mentioned this on prior videos. I will cover it just very briefly here. The odds of you getting your testosterone over 700 or 800, which is kind of the minimum for long-term masculine happiness, over 700 or 800 over age 40, the odds of you being able to do that through 100% natural means is very low. You can do literally everything you can possibly think of to naturally raise your testosterone. And yes, if it's at 400, maybe you can get it to 650. Maybe you get it to 550. If your testosterone's at 200, maybe you can get it to 400. Correct. You're not going to get to 700, 800, certainly not 900 without going to TRT, unless you are a genetic freak. And there is a small percentage of men who are indeed in their 40s, 50s, 60s, who have huge testosterone levels. That's a very tiny percentage. You are unlikely to be in that percentage. I'm certainly not. You probably aren't either. So yes, raising your testosterone naturally is great. I think it's a very good idea for men under 40. But if you're over 40, I'm sorry. If you want to get in those ideal ranges, unless you're genetically blessed, which is unlikely, you're going to have to go on some level of TRT. And also, when people say it's unnatural, it's the same testosterone that you already had. When I talk about TRT, I'm talking about replacing. The R in TRT means replacing, not testosterone jacking. You're replacing the testosterone your body already was used to having when you were 18, 19, 20. You're just putting it back in there. What's unnatural about that? Did you realize that living past age 25 is technically unnatural? You don't bitch about that, do you? No. The human body was actually designed to die at around age 25, going back to the old caveman times. So this is a silly argument. Now, the follow-up objection I get to that is, well, maybe replacing your testosterone, your natural levels at a later age is bad for you. Maybe that's bad for you, even just replacing that amount, getting to 1200 or 1100. When you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s, maybe that's bad for you. Incorrect. Men have been on TRT since the 1970s. There are men who have been on some form of TRT since the 70s, since the 80s. So we're talking 40 plus years. We have 40 plus years of longevity data on this. If you follow the correct protocols, you work with a doctor, you don't jack it past 1200, you get the blood work done and so on, you will never have a problem. You'll be just fine. If anything, you will be healthier. My health increased. My blood lipid panels, my energy levels, all of the health aspects of myself, just about all of them, including weight loss, all got better when I went on TRT. And again, I'm replacing the testosterone I lost. I'm not jacking it up to 3,000 or 4,000. I just went to 900 initially. Today I'm at 1130, 1140, and that's where I'm going to stay. So yes, you don't need to worry about this. Next objection I have heard. Hey, I have heard that if you go on TRT, your balls shrink. I don't want my balls to shrink. So, a few answers to that. Yes, your balls can shrink. It depends on the guy. Every guy is different. They can shrink a lot. They can shrink a little. It depends on what you're doing. What you can do when you go on TRT, this is what I did, is you can add in a thing called HCG or gonadorelin. It doesn't matter. They're both about the same. And what that does is it maintains your natural level of testosterone, and then the testosterone you inject in your body stacks on top of that. This is different from if you just go on TRT, you inject or put testosterone into your body, your natural level of testosterone drops to near zero, and then your testosterone you're injecting adds to that. Makes sense? And so that's why in some cases your balls can shrink, because your balls say, I have nothing to do anymore, so they shrink a little bit, or they shrink a lot, depending on that. So if you're concerned about that, so I have a few answers for this. Number one, if you're concerned about that, when you go on TRT, add in HCG and gonadorelin. By the way, that both those things really improve sexual performance. It's fucking awesome. They're good to do. Just consider that as part of the protocol. I do. I've never done TRT without HCG. And my balls, I'll be super real with you here, my balls shrank a teeny tiny bit. So I used to have really big balls. So when they shrank a little bit, now they're normal sized. Actually, they're still bigger than average according to the doctor. So I didn't really give a shit. But even in my case, yeah, they shrank maybe 10%. I don't give a fuck. So that leads into my second answer. Do you know what happens to men's balls as they get older? They start to sag, don't they? So do you want big, giant fucking balls in your 50s and 60s and 70s? Do you want your ball sack hanging down to your knees? No. As has been talked about before, worrying about the size of your balls, the precise size of your balls, is a young man's problem. If you're in your 20s or 30s, fine. But if you're 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you shouldn't really give a shit about having gigantic balls that just make your ball sack hang low. What the fuck? Who cares? Don't worry about it. Not a big deal. Plus, even if your balls shrank 50%, which is rare, but even if they shrank 50%, the benefits you receive from TRT are far beyond that. Better health, more energy, happier person, better sleep, better sex, better weight loss, better muscle gain, all these things, better aging, Would I trade all that for 50% smaller balls when I'm almost 50? Yes, I would trade that. No problem. I would do it in a heartbeat. No problem for me, dude. Not a concern. Okay. Next excuse I have heard, or objection I have heard. Hey, you have to use syringes, and I don't like syringes. Ow. Okay, well, I've done some podcasts with my doctor and some other people regarding this. Syringes is one way to do it. That is the best way in my opinion. You can also get an implant. There's also some creams. There's various other options. But frankly, dude, this channel is called Alpha Male 2.0. You're an alpha male, or you're trying to be one, and you're scared of fucking syringes? Stop being a pussy. By the way, these are what I use are insulin syringes. They're what's called 29.29 gauge. They're really teeny tiny needles. Soon I will do an entire video on exactly how I inject. I go right in my shoulder. It takes 3 or 4 seconds. It's not a big deal. I'll show you exactly how it works. It doesn't hurt. It's not a big deal at all. Don't worry about that. Now, a follow-up objection on that is, hey, if I use syringes, I travel a lot, and I'm worried about getting pulled over at the airport for these guys to see a bunch of syringes in my bag. I have been on TRT now for, I believe, 7 years. I have traveled all over the world, literally all over the world in that time. And I have been to, quote, authoritarian or troublesome countries in South America, authoritarian countries like Dubai, countries that are really picky about pharmaceuticals like Australia. And I have constantly had giant Ziploc bags full of these insulin syringes right in my bag. They can clearly see it when they run through the scanner. I have literally never had a problem in any country I've ever been in. And I've been all over the world. And I'll be honest, there were some countries I was expecting a problem. I was expecting to say, whoa, what's this? And I'd have to explain it. Not once. That's with my syringes, that's with my alcohol swabs, and that's with my little vials of the actual testosterone stuff. I've never had a problem literally in any country I've ever been to. It's pretty nice. So don't worry about that. You're good to go. The main reason for that, frankly, is because if you use insulin syringes, old people have to use those who have diabetes. There's a lot of people who are fat and old, and they have to use the same syringes for diabetes, so they have to travel with those. So most airports are very accustomed to seeing those insulin syringes. I think that's one of the reasons why I've never had a problem. So I've never had a problem. Don't worry about that at all. Next objection I have heard is, well, I'm worried that my sperm count will go down. Oh no, you know what? That's one of the reasons I went on TRT, because I wanted my sperm count to come down. So really fast, in terms of sperm count, this is what happened to me, and every guy is different, so you may experience something different. My sperm count went way down when I first went on TRT a few years ago, and I was very happy, and then it came back. Shit. So if you're concerned about that, freeze your sperm. Very simple. There have been babies that have been born perfectly healthy that were created from sperm that had been frozen for 30 years. It works fine. If you're really concerned about this, fucking freeze your sperm. Not a big deal. By the way, if your sperm count drops, you can still get a woman pregnant. It drops really low for you to not be fertile at all. So, and by the way, the other thing too is not all men's sperm drop. Some men go on TRT and the sperm is the same. Every guy is different. It's not a concern. You need to worry about this. Next objection. I don't want to take the time to inject something into my body every day for the rest of my life. It takes about 2 minutes. Okay, once you get good at it, and you will pretty quick, because it's not quite, and it's not even every day. Testosterone replacement therapy injections usually are 3 times a week, twice a week, 4 times a week on the outside. I inject things every day because I'm doing human growth hormone and some other things now, so I'm just accustomed to this. It takes 2 fucking minutes. You do it in the bathroom in the morning as you're getting ready. You don't even notice the difference. It's not a big deal. It's not like, now if it was a 20-minute ordeal, then I would agree with you. But it's not. It's literally 2 minutes or less. Not a concern, once you get good at it. And as always, there's a learning curve to these things. The first time you do it, you'll fuck it up. I fucked up the first time I did it. I loaded the syringes wrong, and it took me minutes and minutes. Pink Firefly is now on some human growth hormone peptides, and I had to train her on how to inject herself. It was a fucking nightmare, but now she's got it. It's not a big deal. So those are the objections on TRT. I have a lot more content coming up about this in terms of TRT, peptides, human growth hormone, a lot more stuff coming. If you want more information on this, you can go to my mentorship and coaching program at joinsmic.com. In the meantime, you can click here for a video on how to optimize your sleep, or you can click here to get an idea of what my current morning routine is. See you soon. Bye.